Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole from the Singapore Center for Character and Citizenship Education. A very warm welcome, and we are happy to have you here with us for our inaugural Singapore Center for CCE Forum Series. Our center was launched by Minister in May at the Teachers' Conference and Excel Fest this year. In an age marked by rapid technological advancement and changing social dynamics, the importance of character education cannot be overstated. You and I have a shared commitment to foster character development and instill the good values of citizenship in the hearts and minds of our students. And we hope that this forum series would serve as a platform to allow us to gather and engage in meaningful conversations and share insights on CCE. This is the program for today. Professor Tan Woon Seng, our Center Director for the Singapore Center for CCE, will speak on the call for character and citizenship education. Following that, Osman, our Master Teacher for CCE, would join us to facilitate a Q&A segment. If you have not scanned the QR code here and signed into our Padlet, please do so. We would like to hear from you what is your wow and your wonder moments. What is the thing that wowed you, energized you, and inspired you in today's sharing? What is a wonder that you would like to discuss with us, and we would take it up either at the Q&A session with Prof. Tan or at our class later on. We hope that this will be an opportunity for us to challenge our preconceptions, learn openly from one another, and leave this forum with fresh perspectives and renewed determination to make a positive impact on CCE in our community. And before we begin, do allow me to introduce our speaker for today's forum, Professor Tan Woon Seng. Prof. Tan is a visionary leader and a prominent figure in the field of education. With a career spanning over 40 years, Prof. Tan has made an indelible mark on the educational landscape. He is not only a distinguished educator and professor, but also a transformative thought leader who has played pivotal role in shaping education policies and practices. His innovative insights, coupled with his pragmatic approach to addressing contemporary educational challenge, has earned him widespread acclaim and admiration both locally and internationally. Prof. Tan was conferred the Nanyang Distinguished Alumni Award in 2022. This is the highest honor that NTU bestows on its alumni, who has achieved regional or international distinction in their chosen field and have brought glory and honor to the university. These are just some of the many books authored by Prof. Tan. I believe many of us will be familiar with his book on education psychology. I used it when I was doing my PGDE. Prof. Tan has authored more than 20 books and over 150 scholarly articles and chapters in various fields of education and psychology. He was also a Chen Yidan Distinguished Visiting Global Fellow of the Harvard University Graduate School of Education in 2019. The Distinguished Visiting Fellowship at Harvard was awarded in recognition of his influence and impact on teacher policies internationally. Prof. Tan has delivered numerous keynote addresses at international platforms. One of it is at the Royal Swiss Academy of Science International Symposium. You can see him in this picture where he is invited to the Hall of Decision of Nobel Prizes in Stockholm. I will leave Prof. Tan to share his story with you. Without further ado, please join me to welcome Professor Tan Woon Seng to the podium to address us. Prof. Tan, please.
Thank you very much, Nico. Can you hear me clearly? I hope the audio is okay. Yeah, so the title of my talk is simply a call for character and citizenship education. I always like to begin everything with a call because it is our calling that gives us purpose. When I was the director of NIE, the first speech I gave for the investiture was entitled "The Call of the Teacher," the calling of the teacher. Why we always begin with the calling? Because it is the calling that gives purpose. And when you have a purposeful life, you will do things meaningfully. My second talk in the next investiture was called "The Care of the Teacher," because that represents who we are in our mission as teachers. And then my third investiture, I used another C, and it was called "The Courage of the Teacher." Because in that year, I still remember there was an incident and how one of our teachers in our fraternity, when they brought the students to climb a mountain, there was an accident, and how the teachers stood up to sacrifice for the students. So I spoke about the courage of the teacher. The following year, I talked about the creativity of the teacher, because innovation was becoming very, very important in our educational system. Then after that, I spoke about the camaraderie of the teacher, because we were trying to encourage teachers with professional learning community. Then, of course, I spoke about the character of the teacher. So today, thank you so much. Thanks to each and every one of you for taking the trouble, the effort to come all the way to NIE. Not so convenient for many of you. Some of you, our schools are in the east, and for you to travel here at this time, I know you took a lot of effort. So thank you very much for being here. So you saw this picture at the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences in Stockholm. Of course, it was very nice to be in that hall, because you see the portraits, the pictures of all the Nobel Prize winners, distinguished, brilliant people, Albert Einstein, Max Planck, you name it. But there's something that really caught my attention and impresses me about the Royal Society, which is the emblem they use to represent the society. So you can see the emblem there, right? What is it? It's a picture of a farmer, right? Yeah. Probably some of us will think that, wow, it's a Royal Swedish Society awarding Nobel Prize. It should be some emblems of atoms or something that is more technological. But interestingly, it was a farmer. And there's an important inscription of the words there. Anyone want to guess what those words say? Try talking to your neighbor. What do you think those words are trying to say? Feel free to guess. Anyone? Can't be very wrong, because you have a picture in front of you. Anyone? What is the translation for Esta Commande? What do you tell your neighbor? What did your neighbor tell you? Can I ask the lady in front there? Would you want to say? Give a try. No worries. Yes, please. No stress. Okay, very good try. Excellent. Yeah. Commending the effort that they put in. Okay. Anyone want to give another try? Oh, for Esther de Commande, actually simply means it's for the next generation. It's for the next generation. And I like that. In other words, the advances in sciences is for the next generation. And if you think about what we do in education, it is for the next generation. What more for character and citizenship education, right? It is about sowing seeds for the next generation. Of course, Albert Einstein, we all know, was a distinguished Nobel Prize winner. Actually, a lot of us remember him for E equals to mc squared, right? Although he won the Nobel Prize actually for the photoelectric effect. The story was told about the great Professor Albert Einstein, who once took a train in Germany. And as usual, it was winter. He got his train ticket and then he went up the train. But because it was winter, he got a lot of pockets. Then when the train conductor came to check for the tickets, Einstein just couldn't find the ticket at all, He just couldn't find the ticket. And then he turned to the conductor and says, I really got my ticket. It's just that I couldn't find it. And, by the way, my name is Einstein and I work in the university. Then the conductor realized that, oh, it's the Einstein, is the famous professor. So he says, okay, sir, don't worry about your ticket. Don't worry about your ticket. So the conductor went away. But a few minutes later, when the conductor walked down the aisles of the train, he found that Einstein was still busily looking for the ticket. So he went up to the professor and says, sir, I know you. Don't worry about your ticket. I know who you are. So Einstein looked at him and says, I also know who I am, but I don't know where I'm going. Do you know where you are going? Do we know where we are heading in education in a very challenging world today? Some time ago, I did a kind of reflection on world history, and I came up with this chart. Usually a generation lasts a little longer, but I thought, actually, maybe a generation is about 20 years, because I think every 20 years, the world go through a very major change. And from the educational perspective also, because from 0 to 20, right, it's a very formative period of each cohort. And if you look at it from this perspective, in the 1900s, whenever we talk about the 1900s, everybody think about, wow, the great industrialization, right? The Enlightenment. And it was a period where great discovery, right? So during the 1900s, indeed, it was a period of amazing advancement in all fields. And mankind made great progress. Then when things are all looking very good, people start to enjoy life. So from the 1920s onwards, if you ask people about, what do you remember of the 1920s? Very easily, people will say, at least in the Western society, it was about the roaring 20s. Because it was in the 20s where science brought about entertainment in new ways. Of course, today everything is so much more advanced, but in those days, a simple device, that multiply music or things like that became like such a big thing. So it was a period where there was great excitement in music and everything. So it was called the roaring 20s, because people remember all those wonderful music that was created and so on. When things are good and all the materialism gives us a lot of comfort, people forget about human values, development, and character. The 1920s, the roaring 1920s, was followed sadly by another 20 years. But it comes to the 1940s. If you ask people, hey, what comes to your mind in the 1940s? Straight away, everybody will say World Wars, right? The tragedies of World War II especially. So after the World Wars, we all know that all these big countries, they were very careful never to get into war again because they saw the tragedies of hundreds and thousands of lives lost. It's just too painful. So when it came to the 60s, even though the 60s was often characterized by what we call Cold War, it was cold because nobody really wanted to go to war. And you hear many interesting stories, right, of how Russian or the American accidentally crossed each other's boundary, and they were trying frantically to make sure that we must avoid a war. So although people knew there was this Cold War, actually nobody wants to go to war, you know. So people were very careful, very, very careful about this preservation of humanity, human life. Then we came to the 80s. I think we all know. 20 years later, by the time of the 80s, we see economies booming. A new era, again, of great growth all over the world. And as the 80s approached the year 2000, people were a little bit cautious. You remember? Y2K? Yeah, I still remember. People were worried. On January 2000, what's going to happen? Because no computer system have hit that digit before. Will there be a big chaos? And come January, 1st January 2000, everything was okay. Wow, we entered a new millennium. Everybody was so happy. We forgot again about the importance of values and humanities. We just make sure that if countries trade, if economics go on, that's good. Everybody can come into the market. Everybody can have free flow. We just enjoy life. That's the 2000. 20 years following, come the 2020s. Now we are in the 2020s. 2020s look a bit like 1940s, if you look at the analogy, right? In fact, 2020 began with the first war, the pandemic war. Never before in humankind did we imagine that a simple virus and a simple habit like washing hands that is not properly practiced can lead to a worldwide shutdown of everything. And just as about we are going to come out of the pandemic, we hear the stories of real war, which we never imagined in our lifetime, the Russian war on Ukraine. And today, left, right, center, we all hear all kinds of war. Cyber war. Every day your phone is being attacked. Every morning, there are somebody sending some scam to you. We are at war. Misinformation. Unethical manipulations of every kind. Trade wars. So, like the 1940s, 2020s, sadly, right? And even most recently, in the Middle East. You know, in history, there was a famous war called the War at Waterloo, or the Battle of Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo was very important in European history because in the late 1700s and the early 1800s, Europe was going through a lot of war. But in June 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo, and that was where the British with the Allied forces had to fight the French imperialists. For 23 years, Europe was in war. 23 years. Hundreds and thousands of lives, hundreds and hundreds of lives, hundreds of thousands of lives were lost. Napoleon Bonaparte was wanting to dominate the whole of Europe. But at the Battle of Waterloo, it was a decisive battle because that battle defeated Napoleon and seized that 23 years of raging war and stopped the dominions and the spread of the ambition of Napoleon. And the guy who led this battle was a British guy called Arthur Lincoln. And he said this when the battle was won. He said that the Battle of Waterloo was won on the playing fields of Eton. And it became a famous saying that the Battle of Waterloo, that decisive war, was won on the playing fields of Eton. Eton was a school. Eton was a public school in England. What is he trying to say? Well, what he was trying to say is a war is not fought in the arena of crisis, but on the everyday school grounds. Eton was where Arthur grew up as a young teenager, playing games in the school, where they learn discipline, where they learn loyalty, where they learn respect, where they learn honor, where they learn courage. And in fact, the Battle of Waterloo is actually a battle that is documented in military textbooks, talking about discipline, strategy, and so on. So, you know, when it comes to character, citizenship, it is not a one-time thing. Attitudes, values, and patterns of behavior of our youth today will determine the outcomes of our future society. When there is a crisis, it is a test of what we have been doing, what we have been sowing all through the years. We overcome the pandemic, in the case of Singapore, with very minimal losses of life and impressively, minimal loss of learning. Our schools continue. But it was not, the battle was won, not because of just the advancement of the science of vaccine, but, or for that matter, adaptive policies, but social responsibility. Social responsibility. Societies that don't have social responsibility incurred huge losses in every aspect of what they were going through in the battle against the pandemic. You know, I also want to give this lecture a special tribute, because this year is a year that is in conjunction with the commemoration of the 100th anniversary of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's birthday. So it is fitting for me to dedicate this talk in memory also of our founding Prime Minister. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew laid strong foundations in many things, as we all know, to help Singapore survive, thrive, and flourish. But he paid very special attention to education. And most importantly, Mr. Lee actually emphasized not only the foundations of literacy and numeracy that have brought our education to what it is today, but also character and citizenship. Let me just play a little video of a statement that he made when he met a group of educators in 1966.
And I can remember the teachers in my life, people who made the impact on me, were the able men who wanted to give something. We must produce that.
Education is about people. It's always about people. They are not robots to be put through a system. Education in the 21st century must educate the whole child, the whole person. Education involves guiding, facilitating inquiry and discovery, as well as the shaping and molding of character and values. Remember, effective teachers are not just teachers of the subject, but more importantly, we are always teachers of the learners. So when I was the director of NIE, one of the legacy I wanted to leave behind was to capture some of the very major foundations of our education and our teacher education and our teachers. And if you have time today, I encourage you to drop in the NIE Visitor Learning Center, because right in front there, you will see a quote that Lee Kuan Yew made in tribute to teachers. People who wants to give something, we must produce them. And you know, many people talk about the aims of education, especially in the last decade, when the world was changing so rapidly. And you see all kinds of think tank documents coming about the aims of education, 21st century competencies, and so on. But Lee Kuan Yew make a very simple statement. He says that the aim of education is simple. A good man, a useful citizen. Very important for each and every one of us as character and citizenship teachers. The aim of education is simple. A good man, a useful citizen. What do you mean by a good man? Character. A useful citizen, competence. So you and I, we are involved in this whole enterprise of education. Our mission is just simply the 2 C's. Building in our future learners, the number 1 C, character. Number 2, competence. If they have character and they have competence, they will be able to flourish in the world to come. CCE has gone a long way in Singapore. In our early years of survival, we had civics education, we have education for living, we had moral education. And as we grew more sophisticated, we had what we call the good citizenship, the Hao Kong Ming, being and becoming. We even had religious education at some point. Then in the 90s, as we know, with the onset of globalization, today Singapore still pay a lot of attention to globalization. I always say that this country, Singapore, we survive on flow. F-L-O-W, flow. Everything is about flow. Because we are such a small city-state, we are just one little red dot. Actually, you look at the atlas, if the atlas is not big enough, you cannot even find Singapore. It's just one dot. But from the very beginning, we survive on flow. First, the flow of goods. The British came here because this was a good spot for a flow of goods. So that's why our ports, and we got to make our ports number 1. And we are very proud of our ports. Tell your students, we will have the most advanced technological port in the world. And that's what we are. Within seconds, within minutes, things are unloaded. Great use of AI and everything. Flow. The ships must flow. The goods must flow. And because of the flow, you and I benefit very much. We have all the fruits in the world. We have all everything. Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, we all get. Because there's such a flow of goods. We make sure that we have the best air traffic in the world. The flow of the flights through Singapore. Do you know that given our small size, it's almost impossible. It's impossible for us to have a great airport. But through great thinking, through learning from the world, we built the largest airport. It takes a lot of effort to create an airport to have a good runway. But in Singapore, we are very clever. We built the airport right at the east, next to the sea, so that it doesn't have to take too much land that we need for residents. Our planes just fly into the sea. This is a lot of innovation. Air traffic, financial traffic. We are the major financial center. Talent traffic, whatever, we have to have a flow. Without a flow, we are dead. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew says that Singapore cannot be ordinary. Because the day we are ordinary, we cannot survive. Singapore must always be extraordinary. Then you ask the question, how to be extraordinary? I want to tell you, we are extraordinary because of the value set of our people, because of our character and citizenship that characterize that unique Singapore spirit and attitude. That is Singapore. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong recently shared about how he spoke to the CEO of Nestle. He asked Nestle, the CEO, why do you make Singapore your your headquarters, here, I mean, there are so many other countries to choose, right, in Southeast Asia. Nestle, as you know, is probably one of the world's top food company, billions of dollars. And the CEO told our Prime Minister, Lee, because we can trust this country, we can trust your people. Trust is the hallmark of the kind of character that we produce from our educational system. That's why with globalization, we further strengthen the fact that not only you are a global citizen, you appreciate the best of East and West, the best of technology, but you are grounded in national education. And that is why those of you doing the national education, the social studies, is so important. Then, of course, today we talk about 21st century competencies, right? And the very important thing with all this advancement in AI and things like that, we need to know what is an invariant. Many things are changing, but there is an invariant. Some things don't change. And it is our values, the character, and the citizenship education. You all have been heavily involved in all the many things in the schools. And I have to say, we are very impressed every time we're trying to understand what schools are doing. Fantastic work. Every time I try to look at some of the projects in the values in action, it's very impressive, right? So we have been doing CCE well. We all know the Swiss roll. Everybody talk about it. You map it into your curriculum. I'm sure in your teachers' meeting, you talk about the Swiss roll. You also eat Swiss rolls, So a lot of good work that is being done, right? So why do we need to talk further about CCE, right? Well, I think if the moment we think that it's good enough, I think that's where we are going to have a problem, because the world changes so much. So though our values and what we see as anchors don't change, we have to change the process and the methods in which we engage our students in all of these activities. So later through the day and through the subsequent PD pertaining to CCE, right, you'll be working through and reflecting on how we are doing these things and how can we do these things better. There are some important things we need to think about. While we are doing all these things, how are our students perceiving the CCE, right? If I ask you, what do you think your students like most about CCE? What would it be? Honestly, tell the person next to you, what would some of your students be saying? Sometimes we are very concerned as teachers to cover the syllabus, to meet all that is required to be accomplished. We look at a lot of things from our perspective. There was this primary teacher, primary 1 teacher. So when the kids came to the school for the first few days, the teacher said, oh, I need to do some diagnostic to understand how well is your knowledge in numeracy. So she gave a very simple question to the kids. She says, if I have 3 apples on one hand and 4 apples on the other hand, what do I have? And then the kid quickly put up his hand and says, teacher, you must have very large hands. We perceive things in a very technical, abstract way. Suppose we ask our students, did school help you develop your character? In what ways? What would they be answering? Think about it. Many of us are parents. If you ask your children, hey, in what way did the school help you in your character building? What is citizenship to you? Or a very simple question, do you feel belong? What do you think our kids will answer? Well, CCE seems simple, but CCE is also rocket science. Because it's a complex area. When a child comes to us, there are a lot of antecedent factors. Even we ourselves as a society. Our CCE is going to be very different from everywhere else in the world. We have our own history, our own culture, the nature of our wider society, the different community, their different home background. They came from different family background. They have different social affiliations. So many factors influence who the child is. What is our school culture like? Ethos, the school resources, the teaching fraternity, the school profile, the student composition, the student profile, the peer environment. All these factors are there. Then you come in and be a player. MOE CCE unit developed a very good curriculum, the CCE curriculum. We at NIE and the Singapore Center, our role is to help you with the process. With the process is how do we enrich this curriculum? How do we make our school and classroom climate really actualize the curriculum in very rich way? How do we have the best of curriculum and instruction that will really motivate students in their learning, in their socialization, in the school and beyond? How do we ensure that there are positive peer influences, that the media immersion of our youth, our young people are positive? All of this, all this process will impact on their development and their experiences. And it is the development and experiences of our students that's going to lead to the desired outcomes that you and I talk about. But to impart all this, if I quote our founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew again in one of his very early speeches about teachers and the need for teachers, he says that to impart the drive born out of the desire to advance the common good, the teacher himself must have these ideals. We ourselves have to internalize this. So you saw in the revised CCE curriculum, we emphasize a lot on the core values and the purpose. And I'm going to say more about this, right? I think you all know all the CCE goals. Good character. Very importantly, social-emotional well-being, future readiness, active citizenship. Singapore, in terms of our national identity, we have, as I said, our historical heritage. We respect religions. In many countries, national figures, even disaster that they go through, or the wars that they go through, or their living conditions, or their economy, or the transition they undergo, reforms and technological changes, they all shape something that is very critical. And that something is what we call values. So actually the title of my talk is not just about the core to character and citizenship. It's about having a greater intentionality for character and citizenship. Can you turn to your neighbor and say, remember this word, intentionality? Thank you. Yeah. If you forget anything, we say, when you go back, we have greater intention. Because intention is so powerful. It is intention that drives You with purpose. You know, today our world, I said before, many people talk about the VUCA world. The VUCA world has become a bunny world. That's the latest saying now. Yeah. Not the bunny, I love you, you love me. This world is a family. No. Sadly, bunny means that the world has become more brittle. Relationships are so brittle that it might even break at the international level, economic level, trade level, with serious consequences. We talked about uncertain world last time, but the uncertain world has become an anxious world. This period, the news say, while the exams are near, more than 10% increase in the number of people seeking counseling help. NIE is being pressured to produce more counselors. It's short of counselors, right? It's becoming more anxious world. And a non-linear world. Why a non-linear? Because a lot of times that we do things, we use the science of extrapolation and interpolation, right? Economics and all. You got to study using whatever structural equation modeling, you name it, the best modeling. And it's always based on some linear functions, right? But the world no longer operates in a linear way. All your predictions don't work anymore. Now, when you don't have algorithm to predict anymore, and everything becomes non-linear, it's very difficult. And indeed, things are happening which you and I don't even comprehend. The world has become more incomprehensible. Now, given this scenario, how do we help our youth? Ask yourself, what are our youth going through? What are the knowledge, understanding, ideas, and perspective that they have? And what are some of these gaps that they have that may implicate on their future decision-making and engagement? The rise of social media, I think never before have we seen people so enmeshed in the digital world. Are your youth today immersed in the social media so much so that if you ask them, where do you get most of your information? How do you make your decision? Is it just a peer? How are they defining their identity today? Are they defined by their grades and achievement? Or what other people say about them? Or what they have? Do they feel inferior because the other person have a different branded thing that I don't have? Now, let me tell you this. Actually, the problem is not so much just the social media itself. What is disturbing, my dear fellow teachers, is the rise of a global youth culture where there is a kind of intensity about individual choice. Now, self-directedness, self-esteem, autonomy is a good thing. We always say we give people choice because choice gives you motivation, right? We all learn motivation theory. When you came to NIE, you learn motivation theory. Do you still remember the motivation theory? Yeah. Forgot already. Yeah. Very simple. Motivation theory is just sum up in one word. The ARC, A-R-C. First, autonomy. When people do their own choice, they get motivated. R, when there's a relationship, they do it for you. When there's a good relationship, they get motivated. And C, there must be enough challenge. They don't want to do boring things. You have to just give the right dosage of challenge. When they have the ARC, a person becomes motivated. But the problem with the rise of the global youth culture is that this call among youth in the social media for individual choices is becoming so intense. What do I mean by this? So in my time as a youth, you know, we want to opt for certain subject, we want to opt for certain so-called streaming. Sometimes we don't get it. We don't get to study 3 science, study 2 science. We don't get the subject we want. You know, that's okay. You know, you like somebody and you want to make friends with them, right? Sometimes they include you, sometimes they don't include you. Okay, I mean, I feel hurt a bit, you don't include me. But in this whole social media of the rise of the global youth culture, there's an intensity of the individual choice. It becomes very strong. If I don't get it, they get very hurt. Must get it, must get it. So for you, last time, if you rate it, it's like 2 or 3. They are like 9 or 10. Must get it. And the moment I don't get it, I fall into depression. So there is and it's dangerous because if you look at the influence, who is influencing their decision? I think these are very, very important things for us to note. And because we live today in a so much more increasingly fragmented and multipolar world with views that are really distorting certain truth, all the more we need to be able to help our kids to be able to reason. And that's why discussion of contemporary issues are becoming more challenging. And to do this, I think we need each other. We got to help each other. We need to talk. We need to dialogue, right? And this is precisely why, we have all these sessions to facilitate the PD, to provide the opportunity where we all can discuss how best to address many, many of these issues. Myself too, we have challenges. How do we do this? How we best do this? AI, as you know, today, AI, I think Mr. Chan, when he launched the teachers conference this year, he produced a AI version of himself giving a talk. Today, sometimes you receive some messages with pictures. You are not even sure whether is it true or is it not true, right? Given this kind of situation, all the more we need to understand the character virtues of restraint. Before you do something and send something out, you need to have that, wait a minute, let me think. Wait a minute, let me think. The sense of self-control, regulation, restraint, the check of conscience, making choices from the heart. Very, very, very important. The rise of machines is frightening, right? So we got to ask ourselves as educators, beneath all of this, what is it that makes us human? And when you talk about the human value, what makes us human? It is about character and virtues. And that is why we need to say that character and human virtues today is at the very heart of education. If you are an educator, you are a teacher of character, okay? Furthermore, speaking as a professor and also working in psychology, I want to tell you that all this neuroscience, brain science, all this that you hear about, there's a very, very important finding, which is what we call the heart and the mind interface. Most of psychology through the years, and even what you learn, began with Skinner and Brunner. Now, those are all great psychologists. In fact, behaviorism is a very important perspective of psychology that people must understand. Skinner, when he was promoting his theory in the 1960s at Harvard University, he said that freedom and choice is an illusion. Interesting, right? He made this statement. Freedom and choice is an illusion. Because human beings don't have freedom and choice, because it is all dependent on how they are shaped, what kind of stimulus you provide, and how you reinforce it. And that's why you have the famous stimulus response theory and all this whole science, right, of instruction and how you reinforce. So there's, of course, some learning from that perspective. Indeed, environment, reinforcement, they can shape learning. We use that too in instruction, right? But it's just a very small part. Then, of course, thankfully in Harvard at that time, there was also another famous guy called Brunner. And Brunner says that, no, it's not so simple. What is very important is you got to understand the social construction, how the person not just interact with whatever content you want to intervene in, but it is that socialization that's important, you know. The scaffolding from the teacher, the mediator, right? So it's not just the construction of knowledge, it's a social construction. And then we all move on but largely in all of those psychology, it was still largely cognitive. We will look, even though we talk about cognition, affection, we talk about attitudes, but most of the time we still focus very much on the mind. That's why our educational system and all the subjects that we give our students, in terms of legacy, it's not so holistic. It is very much mind bias. But the recent discovery from the neuroscience, because now they look at the brain, right? They look at the interaction of the different parts of the brain. And you know, a very important part pertaining to the heart is called the amygdala. The amygdala, right, is where it links to the limbic system. But they found that there's a great interaction between the amygdala and the hippocampus and the neocortex. Well, you all think very complicated already, right? Don't worry, right? So basically, in the past, when we think of emotions, we think in terms of fight or flight, dealing mostly with fear emotions. But what neuroscience tells us is that actually, because of the link between the amygdala and the hippocampus, which records long-term memory, every experience, let me say again, every experience of the child is important. It's not just a traumatic fear situation, but day by day, the interaction. That is why negative emotions become very toxic for the child. And that is why Seligman from Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, talk about the positive psychology, the positive emotions. So positive emotions are so important. Every word that you say, every action that you do with the child, right, is experienced, is recorded. All of this accumulated. So it speaks of the fact that if we want to help the child, the heart, the emotions are very important. And even in decision making, it's not so simple as a rational decision making. There is a lot of heart involved in understanding that. And when you talk about the heart, again, it returns back to understanding values and virtues. I don't have to tell you about the trend pertaining to the importance of health, well-being, because it is very important in our dealing with our children. Number one, we have to give them that purpose. That's why meaning is very important in your interaction with children. Their physical well-being is very important. Physically, they have to feel okay, you know. I mean, a child who is sleeping in class. Some teachers, when they see the kids, they're sleeping in class, you know what they do? They go behind and then they, the child got a shock. You know, when the child needs to sleep, means he really needs to sleep. Sleep is a very basic physiological need, right? Wrong? And there you wake him out of his sleep. You deprive him of his most needed physical need. So we have to be clever, right? Not to do this. Of course, it doesn't mean that we just, don't care. It means that the child has some need. Maybe outside the classroom, then you talk to the child in a gentle way. Do you have enough sleep? What is happening, right? You need that purpose. You need the physical well-being. You need lots of very good relational well-being. I'm going to say even much more about this. The emotional well-being. And of course, the intellectual well-being. And today we have a lot to contribute to character and citizenship because with the multidisciplinary perspective of knowledge, we can draw from anthropology, from sociology, you name it. All these sciences are confluencing together that give us so much more new knowledge of how we can help people learn best. So that learning is no longer a box-up curriculum. but learning is really for life. So character and citizenship education is not just the CCE syllabus, okay? It's about really reaching out to the whole child. And that's why we all talk about resetting education, rethinking education. So the Singapore Center for Character and Citizenship is set up in order that we will dream, eat, sleep, think more about these things and to emphasize this intentionality, to relook even at our aims of our education. We don't change our aim from the perspective of molding the future of our nation, but we need to ask ourselves, what are you molding? You are not just molding A students. You know, we got to ask ourselves honestly, what are the virtues that count? You know, when you are older, like me, it's very sad. Some of my school friends died, you know? And then you see your seniors also died because they're all getting old. But in all the eulogy that I go, I never come across the children or the grandchildren saying, you know, my father, he got 8A. You know, he's gone. Nobody talk about your academic achievement. They talk about how loving, how compassionate, how courageous. If these are the virtues, these are the values, then what are we doing in education? We need to mold this. We need to not forget that we talk about molding means we leave a mark. So when I was the director of NIE, one of the things that I did was also to, sometimes we nominate people in our educational fraternity, right? To honor their contribution. And a friend that I like is Iskandar. Because I knew the Iskandar when I was, I started my career as a teacher, but I also worked in the Polytechnic. I met Iskandar there. And he also came to help us in NIE. So we gave him an honorary doctorate. And Iskandar, as you know, is Singapore's most famous porter. He's a master porter, like a master teacher. We have master porter. Iskandar grew up in a village where he said, you know, at those days, we were really villages of mud swamps. They play with mud, you know. But Iskandar do something more. He don't only play with mud. He make this mud and clay into pots. And playing with mud for him was purposeful. And because it was purposeful, he did his molding with excellence of craftsmanship and produced diverse pieces that is so famous. It's so expensive. I couldn't even afford to buy one yet. But molding the future of our nation, really, I like to say to you and I, is about molding the character. It's about the molding the character. It's about nurturing character. And for that to happen, we ourselves have to be people of character, teachers of character. And what we want is to produce our students to be citizens of character. So your role is so important. I'm so glad. I know you all represent some 40 over schools from Singapore, and you are playing a very, very important role as champion of CCE in the school. So as I said, character and competence. And especially in this phase of education, this is particularly important. So the number one goal of education is really to ensure that our kids grow up with character, with wisdom. That means not just knowledge with values, but just not knowledge with values, but applying them. How does this happen? The science tells us that if you are intentional about CCE, you have to build it up because it is done through habits, through disposition, through constant immersion, exposure. This was one of my investiture speech. I hope it can play well. Let's see. Today's ceremony is a symbolic celebration of a very important profession, as I have said. But this profession comes with a custodian duty. As teachers, we are custodian of our societal values. We are custodian of the anchors that build our society. Some time ago, somebody shared with me that, They have this building in the US, which is a kind of a postmodernism building. And they said that when this building was designed, it has no plan. And so if you go into the building, you will have staircases that lead you to nowhere. And they will have doors that open to nothing. And rooms that are totally unfunctionable. And this is called postmodernism. But the point is, in this postmodern building, can you do your foundation this way? I don't think I want to live in a postmodern foundation, right? In education, we believe that the anchors of values are very important for our foundation. As teachers, we never fail to inculcate the character aspect in our students. We've got to ask ourselves, what kind of values are my students exhibiting? What will they bring to the society, right? How will they contribute as citizens of Singapore? And therefore, you continuously, right, play a great role in building the excellence in character in our students. So, I wish you lots of enjoyable planning and experience in fostering the creativity that you have to build our students. With that, let me end with a quote by Dr. Ruth Wong, the founding director of our former Institute of Education. She said, "Teaching has a rejuvenating effect on the teacher, for it is association with the young that keeps him or her young in outlook while accruing wisdom through the years." Okay, I think I overshot, but if you don't mind, let me just take a bit more time. So there is a science that is emerging that is very, very important for us as CCE teacher. So number one, as I said, it is about our intentionality and internalizing this intentionality of purpose for ourselves. And very, very importantly, if you look at the Swiss roll, right, around these values is a very important engine. I want you to have a very new perspective now to social and emotional learning. In order for our children and youth to be nurtured in all these virtues and values, you need the engine of social emotional learning. Social emotional skills are very, very, very important. And we talk about a lot of SEL for our students, but I can say that very often we forgot about the SEL for ourselves, the teachers, because unless the teachers have the good SEL, it's very hard to nurture the SEL in our students. So we have to take care of each other. Now, I want to do a very simple exercise because you all have been sitting. So I need you to stand up for a while. Can you stand up for a while and take a deep breath? Because breathing is very important. When you breathe, you got more oxygen, right, wrong? Now, I want to give you a very simple action lesson on SEL that you will remember for yourself and for your students. And it's very, very important because SEL skills will help you not only in your personal life, but also the life of your families, your life with your colleagues, and of course, your life with your students. The number one SEL that we always talk about is self-awareness. Can you put your hand to your heart and say self-awareness? Yeah, know yourself, how you feel. You know, one of the things that we observe good schools do with their kids is every lesson of learning, every day in school when the kids come in, they ask kids how they feel. They even have some will have a chart, you know, with all the faces, smiling face, or neutral, or miserable face. And they just let the kids, when they go into before they go into class, they just touch. And the teacher will observe, you know. Some touch happy, most will touch neutral. Suddenly one child touch miserable or something like that. And you have a sense how people are feeling, right? So self-awareness is very, very important, right? Self-awareness means also understanding your identity, right? Your strength, right? That we are all different, right? We tell every child that every child you are made purposefully, you have very special, right? May not be the top academic, you have some other talent, Everybody is special. Your identity is special. Your identity is not defined by the ABC grades. Your identity is not about how many people like you. Your identity is not what you have. Your identity is you. In your unique way, you are very precious. And our role in education is to help you discover, right, all your greatness. So we are there to help. Number one, our awareness. Number two, can you put out your hand and say goody, goody, right? Yeah. The number two emotion is you need to manage emotion and express emotion. Teachers, you got to manage your emotion. One very important emotion is never get angry. Because I tell you why, the moment you get angry, you already lost your case. You know, in the courtroom, I have two sons who are lawyers, you know. One was a judge before, one was a professor, and then they go, but they're different, doing different parts of law now. But the thing they tell me, you know, in the court, what does the lawyer, the people do? You know, they will question you, and then when you are the witness, you get so angry, you lost your temper, and what did the lawyer say? No further question. Why? Because the moment you lose your temper, you lose your case. Understand? Teachers, I tell you a secret. It's not that you won't get angry. I'm sure the children make you very, very angry before. I started my career as a teacher. I had a long career as a teacher. You know, I really wanted to be a teacher. I love to be a teacher, but they punish me. They say, hey, can you be head of department or not? You know? So I say, okay lah. Then I just cover. Then I cover. They never change. Then in the end, I become head of department. Then one day, because the school is very stressful, the vice principal keep changing. Then they say, hey, no vice principal. No. Hey, can you cover or not? Cover. So I went to cover. Hey, no, nobody change. Yeah, all the time cover. Then I work in an aided school. No, aided school, the principal is a brother. No, it's the priest. No, and the time got a lot of problem. No, he said, don't worry, you just go and do it. I pray for you. No. So the vice principal job is the heaviest. I know how you feel. You know, but you know, you never get angry. You know, when you get angry, what do? You go to the toilet, shut the door inside the cubicle, you come out, no problem. You know, you got to manage your emotion. But I want to tell you, the SEL is so important because we not only manage our emotion, we got to help our kids express their emotion. Those of you in primary schools, the young kids, those with problems, kids need to know how to express their emotions. They need to know how to ask for help. For that matter, even our adolescents, they don't know how to ask for help until they have really lost control of themselves. Managing emotions means we need to learn to express our emotion. We need to be able to ask for help. We need to give space for our children to express their emotion. Teachers, fellow colleagues, we need to give space for yourself to express your emotion. That's why PLC is very important. We know. Sometimes you cannot tell it to your principal, but in a PLC, wow, you all come out. That's fine. Right? Because you need to express your emotions. We got to manage. In the past, we say manage SAF, not Singapore Armed Forces. Manage SAF, you know? Stress, anxiety, fear. Very sad. Now we're not managing SAF. Now I'm managing SAD, sad, because it's stress, anxiety, and depression, you know? So it's very important to express your emotion. So I always tell people, first, your heart, then express your emotion. Number three, I want you to do this with me. When I count to three, when I say 1, 2, 3, when I reach 3, I want you to raise your hand up and you say, wow, together, okay? 1, 2, 3, wow! Very good. You know, in the SEL for teacher, the most important thing is to wow yourself. Sometimes I ask teacher, what is your most important job? They say it's to motivate the student. Wrong. The most important job is to motivate yourself. Because if you are not motivated, you cannot motivate your student. If you are not a motivated mother, you cannot motivate your children. So always make sure you can motivate yourself, right? This 3 is what we call the most important intrapersonal emotion. Research shows it. Say self-awareness, managing and expressing your emotion, wow yourself. Sometimes work life don't give you joy. Sometimes work life don't give you joy. Then you got to give yourself joy. Some days I write so much plan, I try to convince top management to do certain things. They never listen to me. What do? You know, I go and run. I go and have a run. I finish 5 kilometers and come back. And I wow myself. Today I finished 5 kilometers. Or some of you bake a cake for yourself. Do something to motivate yourself. Because if you hold this view that, oh, principal must motivate me, school must motivate me, MOE must motivate me, you will be disappointed, right? Motivation is your responsibility. That's why today, a lot of the young people are very, you have more cases of depression, you know why? Because everybody keep looking for other people to motivate them, right? No, you have to motivate yourself. Now, when you have this good intrapersonal intelligence, well, then you need to take care of another 2 very important emotions. And that's where you move from identity to a very important area called relationship. Relationship is so important. But we all heard about it a lot. What really is relationship? Let me tell you some give you some very simple tools. 2 of the points that is mentioned in SEL is empathy, right? Empathy, right? Social awareness. Make it simple for you. What is empathy? What is empathy? So we always tell students you must have empathy, right? And then teachers must have empathy, right? The definition is empathy means you must be in the shoe of another person. Very complicated to be in the shoe of another person, right? What does it mean to be in the shoe of another person? Also very complicated. You talk to the adolescent tell you, your time and my time is different. How you understand me? You know, when my kids were adolescent, I told them the hardship that I went through. I said, in my time, I only have 1 piece of soap. It's called the lokang soap. This soap I got to use to wash my shoe, wash my clothes, and even use this soap to wash my face and wash my hair. You know, they say, no wonder your face become like that, lah. You know, they tell me, no, you don't understand what we are in. But let me give you a simple definition of empathy. Now you have done this action. This is the number 4th action. First, hand, goodie, and you wow, right? Now when you put down your hand and imagine that you're holding a whole big basket of fruits, a bouquet, somebody send you a bouquet of beautiful flowers, you know, and turn to your neighbor and say, receive. The number 1 relationship building is to make people feel received. In a classroom, every child must feel received. In the schoolroom, we have to make each other feel received. Feeling received is where people feel they belong. When kids feel that you don't receive them, you cannot talk about relationship. Don't need to talk about citizenship anymore. You know, the big relationship start with being able to receive. Say, receive people. Receive people. When you help a child who is in trouble, a child who has even committed an offense, the sense I want to give to the child is, your offense is absolutely wrong and there are consequences. But I receive you as a person. That's why I'm talking to you now. I'm making you feel received. When the child feels received, he can receive help. But it's something that we have to learn, a skill. And we have to see good models of how we receive people, right? So it's very important to feel received. And one of the key to receiving people is to hear their voices. Hear their voices. When you go home today to your children, to your husband, to your wife, you just listen a bit more. Listen. They will feel received. Why the United Nations today have so much problem? And nobody feel received. Because everybody is waiting to run to the mic. Wow. This is. Everybody is waiting to talk. And while people are talking, they are thinking what they are going to talk. Nobody is listening to anybody. How to receive, right? Very important. You're going to make people feel received. Then we need to help them with the skill of building relationship. Can you find a hand and shake and say, build relationship? Please shake somebody's hand and say, build. Still okay, huh? Osman is very generous. He allowed me to. Osman is my brother now because you know what? My name is Unseng Tan, OS Tan. Some people they call me OS. Some people call me Ostan. He's Osman, I'm Ostan. We have become brothers. Okay. So remember the 5 emotions: self-awareness, managing, expressing emotion, wow yourself, receive people, build relationship. Right? Thank you. Sit down. The whole science of social-emotional learning requires a lot of sophistication. And relationship building is something that is not easy because we need good role models, right? So I want to say that we need to figure out how we can immerse our students into a culture where people really feel received, and so that the whole interaction of values, virtues, and social emotion comes alive. Now, for this to happen, if you think of this honeycomb, there are 4 other wings that are important. The wing in the top is what it calls the curriculum, and that's the CCE curriculum, and also the integration of CCE into subjects. While we have the curriculum, you need to understand the curriculum today is not about the learning objectives. The curriculum today is about the process. The curriculum today is about the ecology. The curriculum today is about the integration. When you talk about the science, you need to tell the story about the scientists, the diligence, the values. I used to do that in school. And it's very fun if you do that. So, when we start being preoccupied with grades and things like that, that's where we lose that larger purpose of education. We need to do things in a holistic way. Then this wing of the curriculum must be supported by the wing of your school culture and school ethos. No time for me to tell you the story about that, but you will do it in your PD. Then you need another 2 very important wing, and that is the teacher empowerment. That's why you are here to be empowered. Teacher empowerment is very, very important. But your empowerment must be supported by your school leadership to give priority to CCE. If your principal is not giving priority to CCE, please email to Singapore Center for Character and Citizenship. Seriously. Okay, I'm going to move very fast because I've spoken about these things. And I'm not going to define character and citizenship to you now, but I just want to come to close all of this. You see, all this, never mind, your teachers will share with you all these ideas now that we learn from schools and all that. So this is just, see, we have a lot of things we want to share with you in the center. So I don't think we'll play the video because you can find time to play the video at other points in the course of this time. But I just want to close with this. Somebody who once helped me a lot in my teaching vocation was actually the founder of this institute, and her name was Dr. Ruth Wong. And she says that, as teachers of character, the first thing we give to children is always confidence and hope. Confidence and hope. The next thing that she said is to give them a good taste of good books and a quest for learning. And number 3, role model for them what it means to be caring and concerning, especially to people who are weaker and more disadvantaged than us. So I just close with this last story. When I was at Harvard in 2004 attending a management program, I learned that the Gutman Library was the oldest library in the US, and it has all the best, oldest education book in the world. So I decided to look for some of the very old books, and I came across this book, and this book described that in this world, there are 3 kinds of teachers, only 3 kinds of teachers. You want to know what are the 3 kinds? Okay. Number 1 kind, they are called teachers that need forgiveness. Teacher, listen carefully, teacher that need forgiveness. Why teacher that need forgiveness? Because the book says it's better that the students never met such teachers. Because when they met these teachers, these are the teachers who totally destroy their esteem, totally destroy their interest in learning. These are teachers who look at a child and can't solve the problem and say, "You bird brain, and the child walk out, "I got bird brain," We never learn the subject after that, you may see 30 students, 40 students, sometimes you teach 3 classes, 100 students, but always remember, to the student, you are that one teacher and a very important, significant other. So the words that you will say actually impact them very much. So a character teacher is about taking care about even the words that we say, the actions that we do. Not easy, but really, we want to all the time provide positive emotions in the kid. The second kind of teachers, this book says they are called the colorless teacher. Colorless, you know what I mean? Colorless teacher, right? Well, because the book says these are teachers who are merely teachers of the subject. You come in the class and you say that I'm just teaching you this, right? And the kids ask, "Hey, why must we learn this? Very, very important. Should come out in the exam. No need ask so many questions." You're just teachers of the subjects. And students are just colorless to them, I heard of one teacher who each time she'll have this cut from 1 to 40, and then when she start the class, they pass around, then everybody just pick a number, right? Then she'll say, "Whoever number I call is the one who answered the question. What is the meaning of heat? Number 4. Then your cut is number 4, you have to ask. So random, right? Yeah. But every day the teacher call is number 4, number 5. End of the year, you ask the student, "What is your name?" Number 5. We are not just teachers of the subject. The colorless teachers, the book says, are teachers where students are faceless to them. And of course, to the student, the teacher is equally faceless because after they graduate, that's it. I don't remember you, you don't remember me. Totally colorless. But the book described a final category of teachers. And the word that's being used was, these are the imperishable teachers. Listen carefully. The imperishable teachers. These are the teachers who help these kids realize, the values, the character, the importance of not giving up, having the courage to persevere, kindness, gentleness, respect, determination. And students who meet such teacher will never forget them. They will never, never forget them. If I have time, I tell you many stories of how I meet old students, and it's such a joy, right? I'm sure we all want to be the imperishable teachers. Imperishable teachers are the teachers of character. Thank you very much. Okay. You guys have been doing it for a long time. I'm going to take the for a while, but there's a few things that we need you to do as well. And can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. Oh yeah, the online audience. Sorry, the other people around. Can we put our hands together for Prof again? Every time I hear him, honestly, this is the heart of the teacher. Okay, and I think I feel very blessed. Every time I hear him, I always learn something new. Okay, and one of the things that he taught you earlier, because you're all going to be imperishable teachers, right? Was the word "wow." So I'm going to invite you to do this. Okay, I think earlier on we talked about the Padlet, right? We talked about capturing some of this learning, because now we're going to do a bit of sense making. Okay, because Prof has shared a lot of things, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of food for thought. So I need you to spend a little bit of time capturing some of these things. Okay. So I would like to invite you to do this. Go into the Padlet, and then you're going to see the word "wow" there. Okay.
And funny enough, we didn't arrange with Prof, the use of the word wow, but he still came up with it, so that was good. Okay, timely, yeah. This is helpful for me as a facilitator, lah. Then you don't forget the word. Okay, two things. One is wow, the other one is wonder. And I need you to think about at the end of the whole session, you have listened to him for how long? 1.5 hours. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's all good. I have to remind him also, lah. But I think you are so awake, right? So awake as a teacher. And I think that's really very powerful. So I want you to go into the Padlet, talk to the person next to you. Have a bit of a discussion, talk to the person next to you. And I would like you to just pen down some of these thoughts that came to you, right? Some of the things that stuck with you. Okay? And then I'm also going to ask you to think about questions. Are there questions that you have in your mind? What is it that you're still wondering about? So can I give you 8 minutes to do this? Okay, 8 minutes, because you all need your tea break as well. Okay, so and a bit of stretching and all that. Okay, so 8 minutes into the Padlet. The time is all yours. If you don't have a person next to you, please pair up with someone else. Okay, nearby. Okay, or even a threesome is fine. We can live with a threesome, right? Any questions? No, we're good. Then I'm going to look at the Padlet and I'm going to see some beautiful words of wisdom from you guys as well. Okay, because all of you, I mean, I look around the room, many of you are very, very experienced teachers. Okay, I talked to somebody from St. Andrews, 15 years. Okay, someone else I know who's rushing out now, even as I speak. Okay, 20 plus years from Boon Lay, which is running away now. Okay, so please, okay, come, pen it in, huh?
Okay.
Okay, this is good. Okay, I see a lot of things. And I'm looking at the Padlet. There are a lot of statements and all that. What we're going to do is some of these we're going to take back to our class. Okay, we're going to discuss with our tutors and all that. So really You can see it for yourself. A lot of powerful statements. I tell you yesterday, while you all are typing this, I'll share with you our personal story. Yesterday, I was with a bunch of student training teachers. Okay. And don't talk about colorless teacher. We asked him, one of the things that we asked was, how was your schooling experience for you, right? And to rate the schooling experience. And the fellow said, I don't remember any of my teachers. Quite tragic, when you think about primary school, secondary school, and post-secondary, and you tell me, I cannot remember any of my teachers, but I remember my friends. Okay? So that's colorless for you, lah. Okay? I'm going to share with you a question that came up online, okay, from one of our participants. Very good question, right? This thing about building confidence, building self-esteem, how do we ensure that it doesn't become the other extreme, right? The child doesn't become prideful, overconfident, right? You know, you get the drift, right? You can be on the one hand, worried, sick, always underestimating yourself. On the other hand, you get the other extreme. So on a spectrum, right? How do we balance this? Okay, so I'm going to ask Prof to respond to this question.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. So it's a very good point. While we try to develop in young people the confidence, what about if they become so confident and very prideful, right? Yeah. So it's true. Sometimes we go to the school when we see, in fact, these days when people ask questions to kids, you know, when they do presentation, many of them are very confident, which is very good because we don't want them to be, you know, so shy and don't know how to express themselves. Yeah. So so what happened if you have kids who are very confident, speak very well, you know, and but very prideful. Okay. So sometimes, yeah, you also don't want somebody who is such a good communicator that become a con man, right? You know, selling fake products to you. So the thing is that is why in this whole values and virtues framework, that's why we say values refers to positive values, positive virtues. And when we are trying to do character education, it involves various virtues, right? So you can have the performative virtues. That means you communicate well, you have determination. But a crook can communicate well too, and can have determination. So performative virtues are not good enough. They may also have intellectual virtues of curiosity, right? Intellectual virtues are not good enough. You must have also the very pro-social virtues, the moral virtues, humility, willingness to listen to others, pro-social, willing to care for others. So, of course, if we see a kid who is just prideful, boastful, putting out other kids, or I think that's where we want to nurture the kid to help them to see that character development involve the holistic virtues. So that's why we say it's like grit. It's not just grit, you know, having determination and all that. You must have the moral virtues of humility, really caring for others. So I think these are the things when we see in our kids, we make them realize. We make them realize by telling them how others feel, right? So all this requires conversation. You also can create stories. Right? Stories are very powerful. Stories of how there are many stories, papers about how pride, you know, lead to a fall. You know, and these are very important because the moment we become too proud, actually we make a lot of decisions that can become harmful to others. So that's why we need to understand this whole science of values and virtues. We involve a whole cluster of emotions, you know, whole cluster of virtues. Respect is not just simply respect, right? So that is why we need to talk about it, and that's why we need a TV. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, I'm going to invite any one of you, if you think I feel very strongly about this, and I would like to share a thought or a question. If there's anyone in the room who would like to do that, yeah, thank you.
Morning, Bro. I'm Mr. Sendan from UC. I know the issue is that after years in education service, I'm 58, I'm turning 60. So my real challenge is that how to teach a student, especially the lower set and maybe upper set, that how can we convince, because generally they don't buy us because I can call you granny. So if let's say, so these are the challenges. So I think is, as a teacher, what I can do is to make myself happy, self-awareness, and at the same time, I must tell students, and they have like, okay, they come from different backgrounds, they have a lot of problems, but come to school as a teacher, I will make them see the color, okay, and then from there they will motivate. At the same time, right, I try to manage my emotions, and then I try my very best, okay? But at times I need to be firm. Then they can buy me. If you scold them from the first day of school, there's no case ready to teach. So I want to share with you how can the veteran teachers especially cater with this actually, I should admit, no? Maybe it can be my grandson, granddaughter. These are all the age gap that we're facing. Can you entertain me? Ask.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, kids have greater affinity to people closer to their age. That's quite natural, right? Yeah. That's why I can remember when I first started as a teacher. Wow, it was very fun because you are like friends to them. Then as you get older and older, you begin to see generation gap. But I think end of the day is that the one thing that the kids will never forget is actually care. Care. Yeah. I think in whatever language, when you have the care, right? Kids know it. Right? The kids know it. The other thing also is that, of course, when they are going through adolescence, they also tend to show that, I don't want to listen to all these two elderly old people, whatever. But actually, if you really talk to them deep inside, they also have this consciousness that they know that there's wisdom, there's wisdom from the old, right? And that's why also sometimes we have to preserve this society, our Asian society, that societal respect, because you must know that values, rootedness are transmitted through generations. So it's not just about that peer, per se. That's on one side. On the other hand, of course, we all try to understand where they are coming from. That's why I always tell our fellow teachers that because we care for the children, that's why we want to know what they are doing. If they go into the metaverse, we chase them into the metaverse. If they are avatar, we become avatar, to understand them, right? So there are certain things that are their mode and all that. It's important for us to know. I mean, we cannot be like them, but we can know what they are doing, and we appreciate their work. So we don't always get them to follow our genre. We got to follow them. I mean, like music, right? For example, yeah, our music, they don't know, they just can't tune in, right? And their music, you can't tune in, right? But you try to receive what they are doing, and that's why also I think sharing is very important because it helps us understand what really is the profile, what really are they thinking, and in that way we can reach out to them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. And to just add on a little bit, and one of the things that we also, from my interaction with the students, that we realize that is also what you don't do that speaks volume to them. And even what you say in the staff room, or what they hear, or just the movement of the eye, the non-verbals, and how that impacts the child. It was very scary when I hear experiences from some of our students when they talk about this. Yeah. So just being a lot more mindful. And I thought that was quite nice though. This self-awareness business, right? Knowing not just about relationship building, but who you are, not just your identity, but really how do you manifest yourself in front of the students? I think that's something that we want to think about. And on that note, okay, do you remember what was the one thing that he asked you to take away, even if you don't remember anything? What was the one thing that Prof asked you to remember? Thank you. Intentionality. What else is there in the CCE syllabus that we should know? What's the other two things? Coherence, Link, thank you very much. What else? Student centricity. Okay, so you're going to learn about all this and how you're going to be the best, imperishable CCE teacher ever. Okay, so please, I will leave you in the good hands of Sichuan. Can we put our hands together to thank Prof again for that wonderful sharing?